Questions like this one test your knowledge of the rules, and you do have to know the rules in order to do proofs efficiently. You always, in this class anyway, you always have access to a rule sheet. I think it's a really good safety blanket, and also a way of settling your mind if you get a little lost in the proof, is to be able to refer to that rule sheet. But there's just no good way of doing proofs if you don't know the rules first. And part of knowing the rules is knowing when the uses of the rules are correct or incorrect. In any case, at the time of this quiz, we only had these 4 rules. And part of understanding or knowing the rules is just understanding what ingredients go into which of the rules. And that comes down to recognizing main operators, and then of course the patterns of the component sentences. Modus ponens, you need to have a horseshoe, and then the matching left-hand side. Modus tollens, you need a horseshoe and a negation, and matching right-hand sides. HS, you need 2 horseshoes. And of course, the consequent of one horseshoe has to match the antecedent of the other horseshoe. Doesn't matter which order, but you do have to have that back and forth pattern. And then for disjunctive syllogism, you always have to have a wedge and a negation, but you either have a matching left-hand side or a matching right-hand side. And so then that means that when you go to answer a question like this, or you go to check your own line in a proof, or for that matter try to discover a new line in a proof, just start at least by fixing on what ingredients you're given. In this case, we have a wedge, and then we do have a matching left-hand side, but line 2 has no operators whatsoever. It's a simple sentence there. So now when we start to fish around either in our brains, because we know the rules well enough that we can just do it in our brains, when we start to fish around and look and try to find the matching patterns, or we're actually comparing to the specific rule sheets, we say, okay, look, it's not a match for modus ponens. Oh, look, it's not a match for modus tollens either. And it's not a match for hypothetical syllogism. If nothing else, it's just as basic as because these 3 rules require horseshoes, and we don't have any horseshoes up here. I am doing this explanation in the propositional logic and not in ordinary language, but ultimately this is also why we have a language called the propositional logic, because it is easier to see these patterns just by matching the shapes, so to say. So if you're still struggling with understanding the propositional logic, please make an appointment with me and let's talk about it. Let's get you up to speed so that the rest of the quarter can go a little better. Back to the question at hand, we do have a wedge that makes disjunctive syllogism tempting. And in fact, I can tell you that this answer option here was indeed the second most popular answer. It is, of course, wrong, though. But what's missing? I mean, we've got that wedge. Well, it turns out that the problem is actually in line 2. As we noted before, we do need to have a matching left-hand side, or for that matter, a matching right-hand side. But the left-hand side has to be negated. That is too thick. We do have to have a wedge, which we do have. That's one of our ingredients as a disjunction. We also have to have a matching left-hand side sentence. We again have that matching left-hand side sentence, but DS requires that that matching left-hand side sentence be negated, and that's what we're missing. We don't have the negation of H, and therefore this isn't an attempt at DS either. Now, from a logical point of view, in fact, this type of reasoning pattern is a fallacy. Refer to the problem set. There's an explanation of this fallacy, but just from a kind of a rule-based or proof system rule-based explanation, it really is just about knowing and then recognizing the patterns. The patterns have to match, and in this case, we have a close, maybe even tempting match, but it is missing that tilde in front of the matching left-hand side, and so no good for DS.